Hey, it's Tuesday morning and it's 8 o'clock. That means it's time for trash talk.
Yes, yes.
And I think what we decided today we're going to talk a little bit about the status of streaming these days, and I think it's taken on a whole nother dimension with the SAG and AFTRA strike, which is, man, that's going into what it's like 11th week or something now.
Well, I told you it's going to be into the new year. I'm
You
just
said,
saying.
and the reports were, especially for the writers. They're saying they're going to drag it out until the writers are out of money.
Which is horrible.
Lose their homes, lose their apartments, that they don't care, that what's right is they think is right. And if they starve to death, so be it.
That's
That's
horrible because it goes to show who you're dealing with.
right.
And why would you ever want to work for people like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still happening. The strike's still happening. There's nothing, the needle hasn't gotten closer to the finish on either side. Um,
No, because the one side doesn't want it to end. They want to make everybody bleed because and I mean I'm trying to understand the reasoning on both sides, and I do understand that the writers and the actors and all are trying to say, hey, look, you're taking all of the stuff that we've done and you're streaming it, everywhere, and we ain't getting a piece of the action. Uh,
not getting anything in the back end. And part of that, part of that was, for some of it is because at the time it was so new, but let's be real, it hasn't been new for a very long time. Plus you've got the whole AI thing and all that. So
right.
and the reality is though, and people don't understand this. So if the let's say the actors strike ended, let's just say that, but the writers were still going on. A lot of these actors are writers too. They're
That's right.
writers on the films. You're still not going to see them because of the writers' strike. So there's a lot of layers to this, and it's affecting streaming. And we've noticed that, with Disney recently just announcing that they're going to increase prices next year. Disney, which they've been relatively inexpensive for a couple of years now, but I think they're increasing too much for what they are and in the game and the timeline of streaming. They're also doing what Netflix did with the sharing password crackdown and how they're going to implement that. And they're really focusing on the bundles. The bundles will actually end up being relatively inexpensive if you get Hulu, Disney Plus, and I guess ESPN.
Right.
So, but in the meantime, you're talking about raising prices, and you have this much a library and this much live shows, new movies coming out. After that, they're going to have to rely on the old stuff. But there is surprisingly right now during this strike, and I hope it ends soon, and I hope the writers get what they deserve, or at least close to what they deserve.
Right. Right.
Um, there's a lot out there to watch. There's a lot of cool things out there on multiple platforms and unique stuff to watch. So figured we could talk about that. What have you been watching
Yeah.
lately that is on one of the platforms?
Well, I mean, we're trying to balance a little bit between the movies and the series,
Sure.
because we just finished Suits, which was I think 8 seasons, and then Lincoln Lawyer came back on with its new season, and we watched that. And then we said to ourselves, okay, we finished the series we've been watching. Now let's catch up on a few movies and
Mm-hmm.
also go back and catch some of the movies. We also are still very much going into the movie theaters. Fortunately, a lot of the studios have got vaults filled with movies that are waiting to release. So while this strike is going on and nothing new is being produced,
Sure.
they've got, just open the vault. You mentioned Disney. Disney will always make money because if they start to see a downtick in their profits, they just open the vault. They'll take out Cinderella or Pinocchio or whatever. They'll re-release it, and a whole new generation of viewers will go to the theaters to watch it. And then you've got phenomenons. I mean, still, I don't quite get it, but this whole Barbie thing, I guess maybe because Barbie, it's not another, a Marvel movie. It's not another, a thriller movie. It's not another zombie movie. It is so much in its own genre that it hit the world, and just the numbers are staggering to me.
It's a juggernaut. Look at number one, it hasn't been done before.
Right.
Anything like that. Number two, you've got an A-list cast in there for sure.
Yeah.
Number three, it's just something new to be entertained. Whether I like it or not doesn't matter. Clearly it worked. So, hey,
And the
know what?
residuals is all of the merchandise and swag
Yes.
that they're selling to go along with it too. It's just it's amazing. But we get those phenomenons every so often. So when something hits, for instance, going way back when Jaws hit, it was the first shark movie that came out, and I mean, everybody had to see it. And as disgusting as parts of it were,
It was great.
it hit. Now they keep trying to redo it.
Well,
Jaws.
and that happens a lot, and we see that on streaming too. I think Netflix
Yeah.
in particular. Netflix just came out with a movie with Gal Gadot. She's from Wonder Woman, and I like her. I like to look at her, and I like her. But it is a generic. Put a stamp in it. You took Ryan Reynolds out or The Rock out. You put Gal Gadot in. It's a generic action movie with generic humor, generic fight scenes, and generic special effects that you spent too much money on. Doesn't work. But there's some other things on Netflix. One of the shows I highly recommend that people watch is Painkiller. Painkiller on Netflix with Matthew Broderick, who I typically don't like.
Yeah.
It is an eye-opening, disturbing. Quite frankly, I don't know how this country is still operating and how we allow it to operate, knowing that our government has allowed big pharma and pharmaceutical companies and drug pushers to really create these pandemics and problems. It is a disturbing thing looking at the OxyContin and how it just everything, and not just OxyContin, but I highly recommend it. I think it's 10 episodes. It might be 8. I can't remember.
Right. Not on Netflix, I think.
It's on Netflix. It's not a feel-good show by any means, but I binged that, and I think everybody should watch it. I think that's one of the best things that Netflix has put out. Very similar to what Hulu had with Dope Sick with Michael Keaton, who I love. That was a good one too. But this one to me dives in it a little bit more, and I kind of enjoyed it. And I thought that was a good one on Netflix right now.
And it's interesting because the public is giving it a lot of credit. The critics did not.
Of course not.
Who
cares about the critics? Who cares? They are paid little, and dude, nobody cares. Nobody cares about the critics.
Whenever I see a movie gets dissed by the critics, the Rotten Tomatoes puts out their green splat or what, that kind of makes me want to see the movie even more.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes said it. Oh, it's 97% certified fresh. Cool. It's probably crap. Because all they're doing is getting paid. But this is a good movie. Netflix has actually had a couple things recently that they've done that I really liked, and this was one of them that I liked. What about you?
I think we're going to get ready to start watching that. We did go back. We watched the new season of Firefly Lane, and right now Emily in Paris. Watching that. I mean, that's a little more of a chick flick and all, but it's good. The costuming is incredible in that movie because it's all done in Paris. But as soon as we finish with that feel good stuff, now I'll be ready for another thriller, killer, mystery kind of a show, because I find it when I start to watch too many of those back to back, I get bored with it. I need a switch.
Of course, you got to switch up the genres.
Yeah.
One of the other things, for all my Star Wars fans out there, and I got to be careful I don't take up the whole show with this. Disney Plus just dropped recently the Ahsoka series, probably the most anticipated installment into the Star Wars universe with one of my favorite characters, Ahsoka, live action, amazing cast. And wow, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but want to talk about a show that feels like a movie, that feels like Star Wars and good Star Wars. Yeah, it kind of has a little bit of Mandalorian vibes, but it's so much bigger. There's so much going on. It really connects the universe, and man, I got to tell you, so far so good on Ahsoka that drops every Tuesday on Disney Plus. I've been blown away by it.
We just went to see Tom Cruise the Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Which is pretty cool because right at the opening credits it says Mission Impossible, the subtitle Part 1.
Yeah, he's doing it. Yeah.
So right away you're going to watch all that, really. And I mean, it is just such a great action scenes and everything. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. But then you get to the finish and it says, you stay tuned for Part 2. So it's going to make you want to come back. But Tom Cruise this year was a good year for him because he also had Top Gun, Maverick. And
it did well. And it was entertaining.
And it did well. But again, like we've often said on our shows, do you go see it because of the movie? You go see it because it's Tom Cruise.
Well, let's be real. You go see it because it's Tom Cruise in Top Gun.
Right.
And you go because not all of Tom Cruise's movies are good. Now, I will say this, as he's gotten older and he's focused on what he's good at, he's doing them better. So I'll give him credit for that. I don't really like his antics off the screen.
Also loves doing a lot of his own stunts, which he did.
Which is amazing to me. Good for him.
Mission Impossible.
I think that's amazing. When you want to watch a fun comedy, so on Paramount Plus, which is one of my least favorite streaming apps, to be honest with you. They have some cool stuff, but I'm just mostly documentaries. But there's two things I watched recently on there. One of them, when we were talking about different stuffs, it's called Mixtape. It's a phenomenal documentary on mixtapes. And for those of you that don't know what it is, this is how you got music back in the day. We're talking about the underground scene. We're talking about underground hip hop. We're talking about literally guys who would pay off DJs and MCs who would pay off people that worked for record companies to take a rough cut of an album. For example, when I think it was it Kanye or maybe Jay-Z was getting ready to release, it might have been Lil Wayne, was getting ready to release an album. You had this DJ that paid off one of the interns there because they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Gave him $300 to take the album. That album hit the streets in the mixtape form. They got to put it in the way that they saw the album presented before the album ever came out. And it was really cool because it took me back to listening to the underground stuff, to hearing that stuff, to getting those mixtapes and seeing how it was presented, how these DJs presented that playlist. And that's how I would typically listen to the album when it came out. They would take 10 tracks and say, nah, if we put them this way and put them this way, this is how it should be heard. And I got to be honest with you, to this day, there's some albums that I don't listen any other way. And there's a really cool documentary on that. I really enjoyed that. And then the flip side of that is sometimes I just look for a fun, pointless show to put on that's funny, And I've been binging or just having on while I'm cleaning or can't fall asleep. And I've been binging The Neighborhood. The Neighborhood with Cedric the Entertainer. And I always forget his name because I always call him Schmidt because he's Schmidt from New Girl.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the old school TGIF shows. It's funny at times. It's kind of cheesy. It's laughing, but it's also just got a great, funny cast. I'm into it, Yeah.
And as I say, the deeper that the strike goes on, the more people will turn to those streaming services because the stuff that's coming out in the theaters is not all that appealing and there's nothing new coming out. So you go back and you play catch up. And we were talking about, there are so many streaming services. For instance, we watched Yellowstone.
Yes.
And Yellowstone, I think the first so many seasons was on one channel. Then they switched to another channel. Billions was another good show that was on. I don't remember whether it was on. I think it was on Netflix, and they switched over to starts with an S.
Stars?
Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
So if you really wanted to watch the show, you'd have to buy into Showtime in order to
Yeah.
watch the new season of that. There's a lot of that going on between Peacock and Paramount and
Well,
Netflix and Prime and all those.
the biggest thing too, and you bring up a good point, is what's happening is, especially over at WB, the train wreck and HBO, they cut the guillotine down and unloaded a ton of movies and unloaded a ton of shows that were even their own. Well, those other streaming services said, cool, we'll pick you up
Right.
and put you on here and maybe even continue the series. So you're seeing that. The situation with Yellowstone, and although the last season, I love that show. I'm happy it's ending because this last season I was not really into. But I do like the show. I think the prequels are better than the main show.
Yeah.
But the thing with Yellowstone, so Yellowstone came out and it was on Paramount Network, which was different than Paramount Plus.
Right.
They wanted to get it streaming, so they signed a contract with Peacock. So because Paramount Plus didn't exist. Then halfway through Yellowstone, Paramount Plus happened.
Right.
Well, they said, okay, we will have the past seasons streaming on Peacock, but any new season moving forward is going to be on Paramount Plus. So you have like seasons 1 through 3, 1 through 4 on Peacock, and then the new stuff on Paramount Plus. I don't know how that show did not suffer from the confusion, but man, what a pain in the butt.
Well, there were enough people that, like I said, when they switched to another streaming platform, there were enough people that would follow the show no matter what.
Yes.
And if they didn't have that platform, they'd buy into it.
Absolutely.
That is another part of what we started talking at the top of the show about the strike, is because
Sure.
when they changed all these platforms and these streaming services were saying, oh, you want to release those movies? We'll buy them up. Well, where were the residuals going? It wasn't going to the writers and the actors and the people that deserved to get a little piece of that additional action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot on there. And then it's a great opportunity to try different stuff. One thing Netflix does well, and although sometimes they overload it, man, they bring some great foreign stuff over. One of my favorite things, because I'm a big horror guy, man, Korea just those Korean horror movies and horror series are amazing. And I haven't now, but I've been stockpiling them for October, and I've really enjoyed that. Some great documentaries. Just there's quite a bit that we can linger and open up your horizons to,
Yeah. Well, one thing is for sure, Trash Talk is going to continue on this streaming service.
I might go on strike.
Yeah. No, but we're on about a dozen different streaming services, aren't we? Yeah. And how's the residuals flowing in?
Not good.
Not good.
I need more. I'm not happy.
Yeah. And if we go on strike, who's gonna know?
I don't know.
But
I might just not show up one day. I just might get some AI guy to do it for me.
yeah. Well, check us out next Tuesday morning just to see if we're here.
Right.
All right. Well, make a good one. Bye.